Yeah, let's break the cleaning business down, man. We've had some requests in the comments to break the cleaning business down. It's been
Sure.
something we need to discuss for sure. I've got a bunch of learnings from it, but just for some context, Jake and I paid what, like 4 grand, 4 or 6 grand
Yeah.
to be a part of this community of people that were building home cleaning businesses, to where essentially you build the website and the marketing and handle the sales side of things, and then you subcontract all the actual cleaning out to subcontractors. And so we joined this community that was building these businesses, and these people in charge of the community had done this in LA or something like that, and they were making a bunch of money with it. And there's other people making a lot of money with it. So Jake and I bought into this thing and started our own cleaning businesses. And end of 2022, I guess, September 2022, I think,
Yeah.
was when I
Cool.
opened mine, and then ended up shutting them down at the start of 2023. So it didn't last super long, but let's break it down, Jake. What did you learn from your couple of months running the cleaning business? What were some of your big takeaways from that failure? Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I was just talking about, like, I just don't think we gave ourselves enough time in it to do it. You know, it was just like, I don't know. I definitely had, like, I was dipping my toes in the water with it. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do this as a side hustle rather than like treating it as a business. And I think that's where people get really fucked is whatever their quote unquote side hustle is they kind of put, 25, 50% of their energy into it. And really, it's just you're taking away energy from whatever the main thing is and putting half of it into something you don't really care about. And really, it's like, yeah, I acquired a bunch of skills in the short amount of time I did it, but it just taught me that, like, one, keep the main thing. But then two, I mean, the biggest thing was just half assing something that I didn't like have a clear goal of why I was doing it or like what was my end goal with it. Like, I think that's a pretty, I know it's kind of cliche, but like the whole Simon Sinek start with your why. Like, again, heard that in church on Sunday. Like, why are you doing whatever it is you're doing? Obviously, we don't need to get into religion a ton, but like, I never like sat back and was like, this is why I want to start a cleaning business. I kind of just was like, oh, I've always wanted to start a business. Let's do this. And that was it. Like, that was really the justification for spending 5 grand to join this mastermind group. And so I guess like obviously I have to like really dive into the main learnings, but yeah, I mean, the biggest takeaway for that was like if you're gonna do something, and it's exactly what we were just talking about, like devote yourself to doing it or giving yourself a non-negotiable. I'm gonna do this for 3 years, whether that's a new job or it's your side, whatever it is. Like really be strict with yourself on how you're gonna do it. First, like obviously uncover the why. Like if you don't have a why, then like I didn't have a why. That's why it was extremely easy to shut it down. But then really uncover the parameters on what you're doing, so it's like it's very structured, and you're not just like there was just no rhyme or reason to doing anything I was doing. Like it was just throwing shit at the wall, really. So the more you talk, I probably will get some more ideas, but that's kind of the stuff at the top of my head.
I can echo all of those things. Absolutely. Not going all in was a big thing. I know for me, I was trying to invest an hour or two per day outside of my 8 to 6
Yeah.
corporate job. And so I remember being at the office trying to field sales calls for my fucking cleaning business. That was a horrible idea. I could never do that. That was
Yeah.
stupid. So not going all in, and I agree with you. I have no doubt that we could have made it work if we allocated the correct amount of focus and energy towards it. We just didn't. And it makes it really hard to make something successful when you don't allocate enough time or resources to it. The analogy for me would be trying to lose weight, but you only spend 5 minutes a day on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you put in a little bit of work, but the work that's required is in excess of what you are putting in. So that would be my first learning. The second thing I learned is we just had, like, let me roll back. The second thing I learned is just the importance of actually having something of value for people to purchase is of the utmost importance. And that was in my, I mean, it sounds so simple and like, duh, like, why the hell didn't you know that? But that was in I don't want to throw names out there, but that was when I was in a phase of following a lot of marketers and a lot of marketing gurus and how to build sales funnels and create right copy, like get really good at marketing, basically. So I was very marketing focused, and every time shit would hit the fan in the cleaning business, I'd have a clean go poorly or couldn't figure something out. I would think that I needed to market more and get more cleans, which in reality, like the product itself sucked and the actual cleans were not going well. So I should have fixed that first, but I just dumped gasoline on my marketing fire and got a lot more cleans in and had a lot more things go wrong because of that. So I think we lacked a lot of skills to be able to see that, like a lot of skills in context to understand what was important in the business context. And I didn't understand the importance of the product actually being really, really freaking good and just how important that is to make sure that is true first and then scale with marketing. I thought it was marketing, make the product better over time, when in reality, it's the opposite.
Just marketing a bad product in excess.
Yeah, literally, it makes so much sense when you say it out loud and stuff like that. But when I was in the moment, man, it's like, oh fuck, I'm losing a lot of money. I need to get more cleans.
Just gotta get more people to.
Dude, it's so stupid.
No, I was fortunate that I had good cleaners. Like I got extremely lucky, actually, that I had good cleaners. But yeah, you mentioned it in Jackson talked about this too. Like, and you hear it all the time from entrepreneurs, and I just for whatever reason didn't listen. But it was like you don't realize, and I didn't even scratch the surface like at all. But I think people they can't fathom the amount of time and energy and attention it takes to starting a business. And like we started a cleaning business, and it realistically would have required 10 to 12 hours of our day realistically for it to take off,
to build it right and get it to a point.
So I you always hear people like, yeah, I want to start a business, or I want to be like an entrepreneur, I want to start my own thing. And it's like, and you can hear it in Jackson's voice too, like the dude that's been doing it. It's like, bro, like you don't realize how hard it is. Like you don't realize the amount of sacrifices and the things you have to give up, and getting punched in the face religiously every day. And it's like, I mean, again, I'm not saying I went through this whatsoever. I'm just saying like it made me realize what you need to go through in order to really make something out of whatever you're doing.
And that brings up another good point. For me, one of the issues I had with the cleaning business is that it wasn't a big enough opportunity to motivate me or to put me in a state of mind to feel like going through all that shit was really worth it.
Yeah, no. And no why at all.
And I think it's so important to have really big, audacious goals and things that you want to achieve, because that makes it worthwhile. It makes it worthwhile to eat shit. Like eating shit for a home cleaning business, that was never something I wanted to hang my hat on or I was ever going to be proud of, And so I think when hard times did come up, it was easier to just say, this isn't something I really want to do long term, or the ceiling isn't that high with this. So that was another learning too.
Yeah, and it was I just had something slip my mind, but like, I don't think like the pain was big enough. Like, it was like, oh, I don't feel like making an ad right now, or I don't feel like making this like opt-in, whatever funnel. Like, I was like, I'll be fine. Like, whatever. Like, it just wasn't, and kind of tying it back to like the weight loss thing. It's like, maybe I wasn't, maybe you're not fat enough. Like, maybe you don't weigh much. Maybe you need to put on another 50 pounds before you need to make a change type of thing. And so like, yeah, I mean, that was probably the biggest thing of just like, yeah, just no direction, no real drive for why I was doing what I was doing. Um, yeah, I had something else I was going to say, but I just dropped it.
No worries. How do you think the podcast is different?
Um, oh, that's what I was going to say. We weren't really selling anything that was like differentiating either. We were just selling a product that was just competing on price with everybody. And so like that also made me realize that we kind of tied it back to your offer thing. Like one, you have to like believe in your offer. Like if you're not believing in what you're selling, which I didn't, then it's like you're fucked regardless. But then two, it's like, especially in today's age where it's so competitive no matter what you're selling, like we just weren't differentiating in any way. Like we weren't cleaning faster, we weren't cleaning cheaper. If anything, we were cleaning substantially more expensive for anybody else. Like it just wasn't, I don't know, there just wasn't a real, I don't know, like I just, if somebody asked me, why do you charge $300 and they charge $100? I would have been like, that's a hell of a question. You know, I haven't, they clean the shit out of something, you know? So that was another takeaway. But circling back to the podcast, realistically, it's not all that different. I think kind of just taking everything we just said and applying it to the podcast makes it so we don't do that again. Because like, it doesn't matter if you do a podcast or you do some kind of side hustle, you start whatever it is, like you can have the same result. And I think it just kind of ties back to like, this is what we're doing now. And then like after, and I think it's just playing it on a longer time horizon too, of just like, you have to do it for such a long time to see any type of gain from it. And so like, I'm not so worried about, like if I didn't have a month worth of, you know, positive growth, I was like, fuck, I'm failing. Like I'm not doing something right. I got to market more. I got to hire more cleaners. Like I need to spend more money on ads, whatever it might be. But like now it's like, I'm thinking of the podcast on, you know, like a 5 to 7, 10-year horizon. So it's like, I don't care that we're not getting views right now. I don't care that we're not on Spotify's top 10 podcast lists. Because it's like, I'm not playing on that same horizon that I was with the cleaning business. But realistically, like, it's not all that different. Like, it's still a thing. It's still, but I think it's just like telling yourself that, like, no, this is what we're doing. This is what we're focusing on, and fine tuning whatever is needed to be done towards that. Yeah. Not losing money every single day helps. That helps a lot.
I wholeheartedly agree. The way the podcast is different for me is a couple of reasons. First one that you hit on is longer time horizon with the cleaning business. I was trying to make $20K a month in 90 days.
I was going to make $200,000 in the first year. Like,
yeah, I was extrapolating that I was going to be, like you said, putting away 150 grand in profit for my cleaning business in a year. And I was working off those timelines, which caused me to rush and make really stupid decisions. Because I was like, oh shit, I got to scale this thing in 90 days. And it crashed and burned and it was not good. So having the longer time horizon for the podcast has been great, and setting the expectation up front that for 3 years, man, there's no expectation. The only expectation is that we try and make each one a little bit better than the last one. And if we do that for 3 years, it would be unreasonable not to have a good podcast.
But I think the pressure is lower with a greater, well, I guess it could be a pretty great upside with the cleaning business if you really dove into it. But like, it was a gut wrenching being on a call for my main job and watching my phone ring, knowing I couldn't answer it because I was talking to a customer. It was just like, there's $30 gone. And then another phone call and another phone call. So it was like, and then if you didn't close somebody on the phone, that's another, like the success rate was so low. So it's like you were just constantly and I know like that's sales, like that's just business as a whole, but like I think that's different from the podcast. It's like we can substantially improve our craft with every, episode, with every article, whatever, and not have to worry about like, if this doesn't succeed, we lose $400. Whereas like the cleaning business is like, damn, if I don't book 3 cleans a day, like I'm fucked for this month. And like that makes it a lot easier to balance the reality of like paying the bills with the main job while focusing on this.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I invested in a virtual assistant in the cleaning business way too early. I was spending way too much money on ads, and that exact feeling of feeling like I was like every month I was in the hole to start the month, and so I had to make up. Is like you're at the casino and you're down $600 and you're trying to make it back, and that feeling is not in my experience, is not a great way to run a business.
No.
And so yeah, that's the other one with the podcast that's great, is that we're not losing any money by doing this. We've paid for like 3 things to make it a little easier right now, but those are not things that we're going to lose a bunch of money on. They're just one-time upfront capital expenditures to get the right tools in place. So that does feel good that we're not in a time crunch from a cash flow perspective of we have to go make money at this thing right this second. The other thing for me with the podcast is that the ceiling feels so much bigger, so much higher than the cleaning business does, and that the payoff of having a personal brand and a very successful podcast at some point in time, that payoff is worth the shit up front. It's worth a ton of work and effort and grinding up front, because that's a worthwhile outcome, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a huge compounding effect, and I've said that a few times with the podcast that we didn't get with the cleaning business. Yeah, the brand, I think, is, no, we've talked about it, but like, I think your social brand will be the next resume, if it isn't already. So I think creating and building that, and I think it'll just, whatever we do down the road, I think this will just supplement that substantially.
Just makes everything easier to have some sort of brand out there and be recognized. I was even talking to my sales coach, about this last week, and he said, we're talking about cold outbound and generating more business. And he said the most important thing he's done is posted a bunch on LinkedIn, and then he interacts with people on LinkedIn that he wants to reach out to. And then after interacting with them for 2 weeks, that's when he sends a cold email. And that's the only strategy he has seen be successful from a cold standpoint, is to build familiarity first and then reach out. And in addition to that, 95% of his business is referrals.
Yeah, that's huge.
So you build familiarity, you do a really freaking good job, and then that compounds on itself. And then you can market to make up the difference.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too, is I think we now realize that you have to build something good before you spread the word about it. And so like now we're not so worried about marketing the podcast, where I think like, 3 years ago, Jake and Braden would have been like, dude, we got to post this everywhere.
Yep. Let's get some paid ads running for the podcast.
We got to get some ads running right now. We got to get some Google SLAs. Like,
find a spokesperson and pay them a bunch of money.
Yeah, we probably spent ridiculous amount of money already on like Fiverr or whatever.
Yep.
But
we would have got editing up front, been like,
yeah,
drop like $10,000 to edit all these things, and
some sick ass intro.